well. I decided to just do a little impromptu camping trip, but I'm just off of the 318, which is just off of the 375 up here in Nevada, or the Extraterrestrial Highway. I'm not super close, but I mean, you could say in the broader sense, I'm in the general vicinity of the Nevada National Security Site, or, you know, Groom Lake, famously known as Area 51. Like I said, I'm probably 30 to 40 miles from that location, so I'm not exactly right in the immediate vicinity. But we're going to go up to a little mountainous area up here. Looks like we do have some potential rain clouds in the area, so I'll monitor that. And we're riding up a little dirt road here. Probably sounds a little rougher than it is. It's not too bad. But I'll catch up with you guys a little bit further up. All right, guys. We're about 10 miles up the road from where I last recorded, and now we've hit the pinyon juniper tree line. I don't know how high up we are, but I'm probably about 6,500 or so, 6,500 feet above sea level. And we're just cruising in, and I'll probably keep climbing. The road conditions are still good, but if I do see a good camp anywhere in the immediate vicinity, I'll probably stop. There is some petroglyph sites that were made by native peoples. If I turn down the right road, I believe it is. I believe there's another one up here someplace. But for the most part, I'm just kind of coming out to get some isolation. But it's looking real beautiful country there. You can see up on the mountains, got nice clouds. Yeah, it's gorgeous up here. It's nice to get out of the city, and it's definitely quite a bit cooler up here than it is in Las Vegas. Hey guys, I got to one location, and it's a petroglyph site I was talking about before. So these are markings in the rock left by Native American peoples. Thought this was funny. Somebody made a little metal figurine to leave in the rock there for everybody to look at. Now there's old ruins of a town apparently up the road here. I'm guessing for mining, or it existed for mining purposes, I suspect. So we may see some art other than Native American out here too. I believe they sometimes call that cowboy art or something like that. Let's take a look around though. We're in a real pretty area there. Now, all of this right here is on what we call BLM land, or Bureau of Land Management land. For those of you who live out west, you know, you'll fully understand that this is public land that we can access, and you don't have to pay typically, and you can camp and just enjoy it. I feel so fortunate to live out here west and see this. For those who might be in other countries or never heard of that, it's just public land. It's nobody owns it except for the U.S. government, and the West has quite a lot of it. In fact, I think the majority of the land in Nevada is public land. So they a lot of times call these rock panels, where you see a bunch of petroglyphs in one location. You know, it's so interesting because it, you know, makes you think about, what was this? Was this just what we would think of as random graffiti? You know, basically kids perhaps scratching into rock. Is there some meaning to this? how old is it? I'm sure there's professionals that can probably give some indication of dates, but you know, a couple interesting things. I've been to a number of petroglyph sites throughout various locations. That little circle design down there about the center of the screen, that's pretty common. The figures always look amazingly similar too, which I thought was interesting. You know, you see all these markings here. Are those like hash marks, or is that just drawings that people drew over? Another common theme is you'll see things that look like animals. Sometimes they look like nothing more than just kind of four-legged things with a head, and sometimes you can make out something like a bighorn sheep or something very clearly. Looks like we got some animals over here. Let's see what we got. All these holes in this rock. I don't know if that's a natural thing or if that's I don't know. That's interesting. Yeah, right there, that's probably some sort of bighorn sheep, I'm guessing, represented there. All right, so back in here are the ruins of a little, I don't know if you call it a community or a little camp. I think almost certainly this existed for mining activity. Well, let's go take a look. As I'm recording this, I don't really know anything about the history of this. I don't know the age of it. I don't know how many people lived here. I don't know when it was abandoned. So let's just go take a look, and we'll see. When I get back to town, before I submit this video, I will try to do a little research. So we'll just kind of hypothesize here and walk around the ruins, and then at the end we'll come back and see how close we got. So this is a neat structure here. Let's see. Wow. You know, I know it doesn't look like much, but it's actually pretty good carpentry right there. That door frame and everything. What is that up there? Is that some kind of, what was insulation? I wonder if that's maybe an indicator if it's a little bit more of a modern building. Oh wow, that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna guess this would have been a kitchen area. Let's take a look at some of these cabinets and the drawer slides here and kind of get a sense for age. So I'm gonna say this, I see something right now. These magnetic latches here and these door hinges. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm no expert on timing, and then this is clearly plywood. But I'm just going to guess, being plywood and those relatively modern hinges, or semi-modern, I'm saying this has got to be probably at least post-World War II. I could be wrong, and we'll see if I'm incorrect, but I believe that the use of plywood didn't really become widespread until after World War II. There's that Miracle Whip top. That looks pretty old. There's some old school lettering there. And I'm really kind of very interested by this bright colors here. And look at this, We got some bright coloring there. So we got electrical thing there, so it's definitely relatively modern. Guessing this would have been a bedroom of some sort. So see this covering on, and that's definitely semi-modern. I mean, that kind of looks 60s or 70s. It's just me guessing on that though. And in here you see you got some plumbing. It's probably some kind of a bathroom. And a light switch, interesting. And that old wall, that's kind of cool. What we got over here? Huh. I don't know what that would have been. It's pretty cool though. Let's see, what do we got up in this little room here? Huh. It's really cool. Let's look at these the woodworking here and these rafters. It's amazing. Still pretty sturdy. Huh, that's a cool little room. I don't know what this would have been. You see the walls, at least of the back side of the house, are all rock. Hell of a view. Let's keep walking around, guys. I see something that looks like a foundation or something out there. Trash and debris. This is pretty characteristic of mines and places where people live. Let's see up here. That looks like a cleared out spot. Thought I saw a foundation, but I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is. Okay, what do we got right here? I don't know what that is. Maybe just some sort of burn pit, trash pit. There's Mr. Camper. You know, that finish on it, you know, for some reason I kind of thought that would blend in a little bit more, but that thing sticks out. It almost looks like a orangish color in some lights. It's okay. All right, what do we got here? Yeah, guys, I'll need your help on this one. I don't know. My initial gut reaction is to say this is some sort of rock wall, and there might have been a structure here, but it kind of looks a little bit mismatched for that. I don't know, maybe it's just a fall and break my neck here too. I don't know. I'm not sure what this is. There's kind of a distal image there of that one house. All right. Man, I gotta tell you, I know I say it every video, but camper is doing really good. You know, this point today, probably 20 miles on that bad boy with some rough dirt roads. You know, nothing you need to throw your four-wheel drive in for, unless it were wet or something, which it's not. But I mean, you would think that thing would just vibrate apart, and that thing just does so good. That exceeded my expectations. I mean, largely that camper, I mean, I took my time and thought about it, and patience and planning. I guess it all came to bear some fruit here, but man, that camper just does so well, so good. It's holding up so nice. When I
camp out here tonight. I'll be living like a king in that bad boy. I think I'm insane. I always keep thinking I hear something. That big, I don't know if bluff is the right word, but that big rock area there. Let's zoom in. Look at that stratification. That is just so cool. All right. Let's make our way over here. All right. You see some contemporary insulation. So again, I'm going to guess probably 60s or 70s. Wood floor. Electrical outlets. Be careful on this flooring here. Looks like it's got entirely a wood subfloor. And this room seemed to have some kind of a stucco finish in it, which is kind of cool. Would have taken quite a bit of work. All right, let's go see what we got over here. So this is probably one of those moments where I probably be careful. So this looks like this is caving in. I'm going to stay right here just to avoid any unnecessary accidents here. But stick frame with plywood outer. You don't see many remnants of the interior walls. I don't know if they had drywall or if it was like this one and it was a plywood for the internal walls, or if they did something else. I'm not really sure, but you know what, this is kind of a little window shelf there. I don't know if that was meant to be, they served something out the window, or if that was just, maybe that was a kitchen area. I don't know. This one, so I would say this one largely is not as intact as the other one was. Enjoy that view. Say hi to Mr. Camper, and this will be it. If I find more structures, I'll tune back in. All right, guys. So it's about 10:30 at night, and I've got a campsite set up. I'll show you a video of that in the morning. But I'm just chilling in here, watching some videos. I was able to find a little sliver of cell service. There's largely not much cell service out here, but I found just a nice little spot of a small little side trail, and I got cell service, and we're out here. And like I said, we're very remote. Let's see if we can see the moon up there. You guys can see the moon. You see, I don't even think it's going to show up on the video. There's one other light from the city out there. And other than a few cows here and there, we are completely by ourselves. I don't think there's a soul up in this entire general area that I'm in. And just relaxing. I feel like a king in here. This thing is sizable. I actually lay down and took a little nap and slept my butt off there. So I'll catch up with you guys in the morning. Well, it's the next morning. Just out for a little hike. So this is a wash. You guys can see this is a pretty big one here. Quite a bit of water flows through here at some points in time. So for those who might not be familiar with the West, not a whole lot of flowing water, but the desert and surrounding mountainsides are just made up this maze of washes of different sizes. They obviously serve as natural drainage when rain does come down in those mountains and the desert floor, but they also
serve as a highway, so to speak, for animals to move around. This is a pretty big wash. A lot of them are nothing more than a relatively shallow, you know, it would look like just a dried out creek bed or something. This one's pretty big. Quite a bit of water either has historically moved through here or does move through here. You know, the interesting thing about these washes, and I'm no expert here, but this is just my own observation, is a lot of times, you know, like you see these bushes right here. If a volume of water flowed through here that was, you know, filled up the whole gap of this wash, you would see, or you would think at least, these kinds of bushes would be washed away. And in fact, if you go into washes where they did have a big flash flood, you'll see, and even to this example, you see a little bit here, you'll see the bushes pushed. You can see this one's pushed a little bit, but you'll see debris that will build up here. I always look at, so we're not too far from that petroglyph site here, where we were. I always like to, so this is not necessarily identified as one, but this, at least in my mind, would seem like a perfect spot for native peoples to put some stuff. This is just interesting. I just noticed this. Look at that demarcation line there on that rock. Is that stratification, or is that some sort of water line level? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Sometimes you'll walk through these deserts and they're, you know, desert mountain areas are relatively dry, but just by how much they're carved down, how much the rock is washed away. I mean, it could have been, you know, 30,000 years ago during the Pleistocene, but it makes you wonder if water, you know, if this place was a lush green flowing river in here, you know. Now it's just relatively dry, except for brief intermittent periods of heavy rains. You know, another thing I love about the desert is just the rocks. So you guys can see, you know, there's some definitely different colored rocks, but just in the middle of all of it is this thing. I initially thought it was a piece of glass. I suppose maybe I'm wrong, and it could be, but it sure looks extra thick and seems to have the texture of a rock. Looks like a piece of obsidian to me. Just sitting out here all by itself. I didn't dig down, but I don't see any other evidence of it anywhere. Fascinating. Let me show you something over here. See this? That's some pretty good water which had flowed through there to smooth down the rock like that. My gut tells me that that's probably not just from intermittent water flows. You know, it makes you wonder when you see things like that. I mean, look how smooth some of this rock is. I do understand there's other forces of erosion in play here, but you know, I bet you, you know, like I said, 10, 20,000 years ago, right toward the end of the Pleistocene, you know, this might have been a green, lush area with water flowing through here. So kind of give a description of where I'm at. I haven't talked about that. I'm in the Mount Irish area, which is outside of Hiko, Nevada, which has a whopping population of about 100. I guess you can kind of say it's central Nevada-ish, south central. Very remote area. Hiko, like I said, is 100. That's about 10 miles away. That's about 100 people. Small. There's a big Hiko spring that feeds a population there. And then, I don't know, I'm guessing
10, 20 miles from there is Alamo, Nevada. That's just got a few thousand people. So we're about 100 miles from anywhere of any population centers, which would be Las Vegas. To the north, it's even further. You guys have all heard of the Extraterrestrial Highway. That's just to, well, actually the direction we're facing here, which is to the west, I think it is. That would be kind of roughly in that direction. These are the Mount Irish Mountains here. Well, I'm sorry, that's probably not actually what the range is called. I don't remember what it's called. But one of the named peaks is Mount Irish. As we saw between the Petroglyphs and then that homestead out there, which I later learned was called Logan, there had been some sporadic human habitation out here for a variety of reasons. The most contemporary of which is cattle grazing and mining. Mining has been one of the primary drivers of habitation here in the West. Silver mines, from what I understand, they popped up around the 1860s, 1870s, and petered out not too long after. That was the interesting thing about that city that that little series of homesteads that we saw out there. Logan was first populated in 1865, and all the accounts I found said it pretty much everyone left by the 1870s. Those two structures we saw were by far later than that, so I don't really know what the history is to that. It's kind of a mystery. Okay, remember when I was talking about evidence of extreme water flows in these washes? Here's a great example of it, and there's actually another example of it over there. So this is probably a juniper tree. I don't know if the tree actually grew in this spot and was washed to its, or I guess pushed over with water flow, or if it actually flowed from some other place upstream. But you can see all the, obviously one way or the other, the tree itself is kind of impacted in the ground there, and then you could see all the debris, which in this case is largely big rocks, which had washed up on top of it. Pretty powerful forces there. And over here, so this is definitely a juniper bush that was or is growing here, and it's actually still alive. But you can see all of those branches there. First glance, you'd think that might be some kind of a nest, but it is not. That is a bunch of branches which flowed in the water and then were built up on that thing there. And that's, just for reference, that's probably 5 feet in the air at the highest there. So we're talking some serious water flows through here at some point in time. All right, guys, so a little bit further down the wash, and I run into this little, I don't know what you call it, little canyon area, I guess. So that looks like a, well, I mean, it's kind of a cave, you know. It looks like a, I don't see any contemporary evidence of anybody living in there, but that would be a great place to stay. And right now it's probably about 80 degrees out. It's a little warm, not super warm, but a little bit. Up in there it's nice and cool. But look over here. So we know there's petroglyphs in the area because they have a marked spot. But this right here looks like petroglyphs, and this is a rock that's not within the identified area. So probably not one that people see. Let me zoom in here. But that definitely looks made by the hands of man. And if you look above there, that looks like the iconic, remember we were talking about some of the common symbols there. So let's see, so right in the center of the screen, that's a very visible one, but if you look slightly up to the right, that looks like some sort of bighorn sheep and other markings, maybe other animals. Really neat area though. You can see right here that at some points water probably comes down like a little waterfall right there. Really neat area here. All right, guys, here's a little navigation tip or safety tip, I would say, in the outdoors is I have one of these Garmin GPS watches. There's many others on there. I make a habit of always setting waypoints or markers of where I was. So for today, when I went out for the hike, I set a marker of where my truck is parked, and then you can navigate back to that mark. So for example, today I went and walked up the wash, but then I climbed up the wash and I'm coming back a different way. Now I will admit, here in the desert and, you know, pinyon juniper zones, especially with a lot of hills and stuff, navigation is easier because there's typically some pretty good marker points, you know, visual marker points, you know, different rocks and such, and you can typically see. So like the camper sits pretty high, so occasionally I can see it from a distance, but it's just good, smart, common sense to, if you're going to hike off trail like I am now, get a GPS watch, set waypoints, and then that way if you get lost or you just want to double check what you think where you're going, you can always just navigate back to them. It's just a good safety, common sense thing.